they talking real loud, spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Up and get us swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In our heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Up and get us swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Up and get us swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. All right, so let's see who's in here. All right, Deronda, We the People, Battle Axe, Leon, Natasha Holiday, Claudette. Okay, let's get into it. Reggie, I see you, beloved. Yvette, all right. Shout out to all my loyal royals and everyone tuned into the Queen. I see you, Pretty Wings. Judah Homecoming, LL, Trisha. Okay, Emperor Rex. All right, so that all being said, shout out to all of my loyal royals tuned into the Queen and everyone else. And also a big shout out to my moderators because they be putting in work. All right, I see you above all that drama. Now, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes, and then we'll get this party started.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay. So that all being said, don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells beard oil as well. Okay, so let's get ready to get into it. Now, They say the Pentagon is making detailed preparations for potentially sending U.S. troops into Iran. This is according to sources in a report from CBS about 16 hours ago. Now, I find that interesting because just about 30 minutes ago, CBS says Trump is he signals possible winding down in Iran. So which is it? Because if he's winding down, why would he be sending more troops? Or sending in ground troops. And I've told you all that is just a recipe for disaster. Okay, those troops will never make it out of there alive. Okay, please pay attention. I keep telling you about the mountainous terrain and how they're not familiar with the area. Surely, and the Iranians can just easily just overtake them. Like, this is all so crazy, and Trump's a whole idiot. But with that all being said, let's go to this clip. Likes up, everyone, please. Don't forget to like and share. Double check to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel, especially if you have not been receiving your notifications.
Today, the war in Iran isn't ending anytime soon. Pentagon officials have made detailed preparations for deploying U.S. ground forces into Iran. Multiple sources briefed on the discussions tell CBS News senior military commanders have submitted specific requests aimed at preparing for such an option. All of this shows yet again the Pentagon continues to expand military options available to the president, even if he publicly declined to discuss next steps.
No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you.
Whatever options the president's considering, we know this. Thousands of Marines are en route to the Middle East. 3 warships and about 2,200 Marines from an expeditionary unit left California this week, the second such Marine unit sent towards the region since the war began. Those are signals the war isn't ending soon. There's also what the president said just a short time ago on his way down to Florida.
I don't want to do a ceasefire. You don't do a ceasefire when you're literally obliterating the other side.
So we begin tonight with CBS's Charlie D'Agata, who is once again in Tel Aviv for us tonight. Charlie, good.
Let me just interrupt for a second. Okay, here's the thing. He says he doesn't want to do a ceasefire. Well, you can't do one. And if you do one, it's not going to do you any good. He's already offered 2 ceasefires and Iran rejected. Okay, they rejected his ceasefires. Okay. He offered 2 of them at least. And the reason they rejected them is because, quite frankly, they don't trust him. Okay, and neither should we. Okay, they don't trust him because he sat there and was acting as though he was negotiating with them. And then what did he do? He attacked them by surprise. Okay, so yeah, they don't trust him. They don't want anything to do with him as it pertains to a ceasefire, negotiations. All of that's out of the window at this point. And notice how he keeps saying we're obliterating them. We've taken out their entire Navy. Oh, their air defenses are down. Well, why the hell is he sending more troops? And why are they even still there? Didn't he say just literally the other day that there was not anybody even shooting at them? So please make it make sense. Okay, but let's let him cook with his stupid self.
To see you. What more do we know about the administration preparing for the potential deployment of ground troops?
Yeah, good evening, Ed, or good afternoon, Ed, for you. So as you said, sources told CBS News tonight, or this afternoon, the Pentagon officials, this is where the preparation comes in, the planning comes in for preparing to deploy ground forces. Senior military commanders have made specific requests aimed at preparing for that option should President Trump decide to do so. As you said, there's another 2,200 Marines that have already set sail from California. So they're on board the USS Boxer amphibious ship that I confirmed today. They're already on the way here, already on the way from the South Pacific with another 2,200 Marines on board is the Tripoli amphibious from the South Pacific. Technically, they qualify as ground troops if that is what's decided. But in addition, and this is important, they're also preparing the 82nd Airborne Division. Okay, so these are combat-ready troops. Where? We've already discussed Harg Island, that military oil hub that was bombed by the United States a few days ago. Securing that island would give some leverage, a toehold, in trying to break Iran's stranglehold of the Strait of Hormuz. But that's just one of several military options that commanders might be considering. And we're talking about 2 weeks before either of those, the Marine contingents get here or the soldiers are in a position to attempt any kind of meaningful ground invasion, if you want to call it that, of any description. And as you said, when asked about that, White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt said the president said himself he's not planning to send ground troops anywhere at this time.
Right. Now, there was this threat today from Iran regarding tourist sites and parks across the globe. What do we know about that?
Yeah. You know, it's not much more than the statement, that line that you just read, because it was only one line by the Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards, that in addition to attacking sites across the UAE, oil and gas infrastructure, which they continue to do, going after another oil facility in Kuwait, you know, apartment blocks and airports. They told Iran's state newspaper that Iran will target parks, recreation, and tourist destination of its enemies. So this is kind of like a blanket threat. And we have seen it. You know, Iran had made these threats before the United States and Israel attacked anyway, that they were going after any kind of U.S. allies in this region, any kind of the bases. And I think it took a lot of people by surprise a few weeks ago when we saw apartment blocks and tourist sites that were attacked across the UAE and Dubai. It sent a lot of people scrambling, as you know, a lot of Americans trying to get out of this area. And I can also tell you, Ed, it has been a very noisy day here in Israel from north to south. There may have been, I'm thinking about a dozen air raid sirens. And when those things go off, it's not just.
Okay, I've heard enough of that. Now, here's the thing. I'm just not seeing how this is making any sense that he's sending troops if they're ready to end this. Now, the next report says Trump signals possible winding down in Iran as Marines head to Middle East. Well, here's the thing. They say that now Iran is talking about going after the U.S.'s nuclear sites. They're asking, are they at risk? And they say that Mushtaba Khamenei is ready for revenge, and there's a hard slap coming for the U.S. Okay, this is all getting real bad, folks. All right, please pay attention. And Trump's ignorant self had no military strategy. Okay, he didn't have anything planned out. He has no end game here. He doesn't know what he's going to do. Okay, did he think that he could just tell them to throw down their weapons and leave, and that's the end of it? He is so ridiculous. Hold on, let's get into it.
Contributor Samantha Vinograd. She was a former Homeland Security official during the Biden administration, so a very good person to have with us this morning in studio. Thank you so much for being here. Want to start with those additional Marines that are heading to the region. What does this signal to you?
Well, while the president is saying that we may be winding down the war, the actual capabilities that he's deploying to the region, Kelly, tell a different story. The additional individuals and assets that he's sending are really trained to do amphibious assaults, crisis response, and more. So that's begging the question of whether the president is thinking about putting ground troops in Iran to secure nuclear materials or to try to secure an important oil loading facility at Karg Island as the strait still remain closed. These capabilities will all likely be in place in the coming weeks, and that is why there are all these questions about whether the president is considering boots on the ground.
Let's talk about Iran's nuclear material, because they still have nuclear material in their possession. The president, according to CBS News reporting, hasn't made a decision whether there will be an operation to try to recover this material. What would an operation like that even look like? And will it require troops going in?
Well, nuclear disarmament is complicated and time-intensive under the best of circumstances with a cooperative government during peacetime. And the U.S. has a long history of doing just that after the fall of the Soviet Union, with the International Atomic Energy Agency in Libya and elsewhere. The U.S. government, via its Special Operations Forces, does train troops to secure nuclear material. But even if the U.S. intelligence community has figured out where the roughly 900 or so pounds of highly enriched uranium is, and even if the United States could get troops to that particular site or sites, those troops would have to actually secure the facility. That would require detailed knowledge of the facility itself. They would have to secure the materials to ensure there's no leakage. From there, they would have to transport them to potentially a third country, repackage them, and then ultimately perhaps bring them to the United States. That kind of work would really benefit from having not a kinetic conflict, but a calm environment to do detailed operational planning detailed packaging and repackaging, and to ensure that there's no spillover effects, no pun intended, of any nuclear material.
If you ask me, the U.S. doesn't need nuclear material. They're the last ones who should have a nuclear bomb. And let me just tell you all something. You know, some people who look like me are so silly and obtuse. Okay, you know that video went viral the other day. Remember the video I showed you all last night? The video with Trump talking to the Prime Minister of Japan, and then a reporter asked him, why didn't he inform his allies that he was going to attack Iran? And then he said, why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Remember that? This man is so stupid, but even more stupid than him is the fact that there are people who look like me who, when the video went viral, they were laughing and saying, oh, Trump's a gangster. Oh, Trump's a real one. Are y'all okay? Are these people all right? Have they lost their darn minds? What's funny about any of it? Okay. And talking about he keeps it real. How does he keep it real when he's a whole pathological liar and everything that comes out of his mouth is BS? A whole malignant narcissist, but he's gangster? I want you all to pay attention to how stupid some of our own people are. And it's really sad and pathetic. Okay, it really is. Now, the bottom line is we're about to be thrust into economic decline. And this is nothing we haven't seen before. Now, because this happened back in the 70s. Now, I want you all to pay attention because history is absolutely repeating itself. We have concentration camps like they had in 1945. That's what they are. And the children in there are being molested and R-worded. Okay, these girls are coming up pregnant. Now, what is the government doing about it? Nothing, because where are these babies going when they have them? Are they selling them? Do you all not remember back in 2020 when I reported to you about the children, the migrant children who were transported from one side of the country to another in the dark of night? Do you all remember that? And taken to a facility. And I told you all then, I said, that's hella suspicious. Why are they taking them without any type of guardians? And what are they going to do? This all reeks of trafficking. And then we find out later from Tara Rhodes, the whistleblower, that that's exactly what happened. Okay, please pay attention. The same thing's going on right now. History's repeating itself. And you're going to find out even more so tomorrow because I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation to break it all down for you. Okay, where exactly this country is headed and how this all happened before. And this is the same story being told again. And remember, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Okay, please pay attention. So with that all being said, let's talk about what's going on in these detention centers. Here we go.
As of today, we should be placing any pregnant children into the San Benito program. That's a real email sent at the direction of Chief of Staff Matt O'Neill Levine in July 2025 by Melissa Johnston, Deputy Chief of U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. According to officials, some were as young as 13, and at least half of those taken in so far became pregnant as a result of rape. Child welfare officials say both the facility and the region lack the specialized care the girls need. And the region lacks specialized care because, one, it's Texas, and you can't get a schmishmortion in Texas. And two, these are incredibly high-risk pregnancies because these are children with trauma who have been raped. So I want to know, after these little girls have their babies, where do the babies go? Wouldn't they be American citizens? As of today, we should be placing any.
Yeah, where are these children going? And Trump's trying to get rid of birthright citizenship. Let's not forget. Let's go to the next clip. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance.
They're forcing young women and girls to keep the products of their During the first Trump admin, this man, Scott Lloyd, the director of the Office of Refugee Resettlement, or ORR, forced pregnant teens and children in ICE custody to keep their pregnancies. He would force them to get counseling about the benefits of motherhood and the harms of abortion, even going as far as to personally plead with them to reconsider. He literally forced kidnapped, likely abused children to keep the product of their. In 2020, the Trump admin settled a lawsuit saying they wouldn't prohibit minors from getting abortion care if in federal custody. Biden made it a regulation that if a detained minor requested an abortion and was in a banned state, they would be moved to one where they could get one. Now, Trump is trying to kill that policy and is forcing all minors to keep their pregnancies. A report came out recently that all detained pregnant minors are being sent to one shelter in Texas, a state with one of the strictest abortion bans in the country, despite ORR having placements for them all over the country that are more fit and more equipped for them. We hear a lot from the pro-life party that exceptions justify bans, despite most evidence proving they don't work. What about these women? What about these children? Especially when we're talking about non-citizens, in what world are they going to get the justice or the autonomy that they deserve?
Picture this, more than a dozen pregnant teenage girls crammed inside a single building. They're scared, they're separated from their parents and without access to adequate health care, and they have no idea when they'll be released. Sounds like something out of a dystopian novel, but according to an NPR investigation, it's happening right now here in the United States. Unaccompanied pregnant migrant girls, many of whom are pregnant as the result of rape, some as young as 13, are being placed together in a facility in a small Texas border town over urgent objections from the administration's own health and welfare officials, who say that both the facility and the region in which the facility exists lack the specialized care that these girls need. But under the second Trump administration, for the first time, pregnant minors are being concentrated in a single group shelter in San Benito, which is in Texas, where abortion is illegal. 7 officials who work at the Office of Refugee Settlement told Texas Public Radio that the facility lacks adequate health care access for these girls. A spokesperson from the Department of Health and Human Services said, quote, ORR's placement decisions are guided by child welfare best practices and are designed to ensure each child is housed in the safest, most developmentally appropriate setting, including for children who are pregnant or parenting, end quote. But several officials at the Office of Refugee Resettlement reportedly took issue with that statement, with one saying, quote, ORR is supposed to be a child welfare organization. Putting pregnant kids in San Benito is not a decision you make when you care about children's safety, end quote. Because their bodies are still developing, pregnancy at such a young age carries higher risks. Teens are more likely to experience pregnancy-induced hypertension, anemia, miscarriage, premature labor, infection, and a host of other issues. Texas's abortion ban has often caused care for these kinds of emergencies to be delayed or denied, which could make these pregnancy complications fatal. This is not an exaggeration. Maternal mortality is already 2 times higher in teens than it is in adult women, which means denying access to health care only makes the dangers worse. Women's health advocates also warned Texas Public Radio that some of the girls may have untreated sexually transmitted infections resulting from rape and worry that they aren't receiving adequate prenatal care or proper nutrition.
Okay, and one thing that I wish that she would not say, the lady that gave the report, shout out to her for that report, but it was very informative, but she should not call them young ladies. These are children. These are not young ladies. These are children. Okay? Some of them are 12 years old. This is absolutely nefarious. Now, I want you all to pay attention. I'm going to this report from 2018. And some of this was still going on during the Biden administration as well, but it started with Trump. Okay? Migrant children secretly transported to New York City foster care in the dead of night. This was in June 21st of 2018 when Trump was the president. In New York City, children were separated from their families, were brought to a Manhattan foster care organization in the dead of night, early Wednesday morning. Video broadcast by the local news channel Spectrum News in Y1 shows 5 girls being ushered into a foster care facility in East Harlem, run by Cayuga Centers, just before 1 a.m. Okay, an hour later, several girls were filmed leaving the facility with their heads covered as they were ushered into a car. Now, where were they taking these girls? The video prompted outrage from New York Mayor Bill de Blasio, who questioned how the federal government could be holding separated children without telling city officials. Now, Mayor Bill de Blasio asked, he said, our message to the federal government is simple. Stop this right now. Stop this broken, inhumane policy right now and come clean with the truth. Who are these children? How many are they? Where are they? What's happening here? How is it possible that none of us knew there were 239 kids right here in our own city? How is the federal government holding back this information from the people of this city? Okay, now this all sounds like trafficking. Okay, please pay attention. Trump has a whole lot of blood on his hands, in my opinion, and has done a whole lot more than what he's been accused of in the Epstein files, in my opinion. Now, President Trump signed an executive order Wednesday claiming to end the separation of children from their parents at the border by jailing them together while their legal cases wind through the courts. The order does not say where the families will be detained or whether children will continue to be separated from their parents until the facilities are ready. Okay, I want you all to pay attention. None of the stuff that they did helped these children at all. Okay, and this was all only after backlash. I want you all to pay attention. Now, with that all being said, let's go to this next report. And then purposely sending them to these centers in Texas where they know they can't get rid of these babies. Okay? Why would they want them having babies? Ask yourselves. Ask yourselves, why would they want them having babies? Well, I pretty much think that they're selling them. Okay, that's just what I think. I could be wrong, but with all the demonic, nefarious things they have been doing and that we found out, specifically with the Epstein files, I'll put nothing past them because all of the people in the Epstein files, or at least most of the people, were politicians. Were they not?
They are gathering pregnant children in San Benito, Texas, at a facility ran by Urban Strategies, a private contractor who has been taking care of children for decades. But now there's been straight directives from the Department of Human Resources, from the federal government to, and I quote, all pregnant detainees are to be sent to the San Benito Project, is what they called it. Pregnant children, pregnant girls, all of them they're being sent to fucking Texas, to a facility that is not equipped to deal with pregnant women, let alone pregnant children, because that's what these are. These are pregnant children. And a lot of them were in ICE custody and then got pregnant and they were shipped to this facility. And any ones that are pregnant are getting sent to this facility where there's inadequate care and no abortion rights, no like anti-abortion laws. It's literally it's what they tried to do this shit in 2017 and they failed. And now they're just doing it casually. They're just like, nope, send them all to this one spot where they have to have, where these underage children, there's no such thing as underage children. They keep calling them underage women. If you look this up, they'll call them underage women. They're fucking children, dude. They're girls. They're children. And they're forcing them to go to this facility in Texas where they're not getting any.
And let me just tell you something else nefarious. They're being malnourished, no adequate medical care, any of that. Okay, and I want you all to pay attention because let me tell you something else that they're doing that is so absolutely sick and disgusting to me. Okay, and it is almost like a slap in the face. Another thing that they're doing is one of the wings of these facilities, or one of these facilities where they send the girls to that are pregnant, where they separate them, it is called the butterfly wing. It's called the blue butterfly wing. Now, why is it called the blue butterfly wing? Well, if you ask me, they're poking fun. Because why would they call it that? Because one of the most famous Epstein survivors, Virginia Giuffre, she had a charitable organization, okay? And it's in memory of her, Blue Butterflies. All right, now we know how she was trafficked and what happened to her and all of that. We know how she was trafficked and everything that happened to her. Okay. And how she was traumatized and then ended up dead. And they claim that she did it to herself. I don't think so. Absolutely not. But the bottom line is they named it after her or her charitable organization. I find that absolutely diabolical. Okay. I find it absolutely diabolical. Hold on, you guys. Hold on. I see. Hold on. God damn it. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Give me just a second. Okay, I just needed to screenshot this comment before I delete this person because I will be reporting them. Okay, did y'all see that comment? Some MAGA minion came in here. Hold on, let me read it to you because I had to screenshot because I absolutely will be reporting their channel. Okay, and moderators, please pay attention to the trolls in the chat. Okay, we have some Trump lovers. It says, you black bitches are entitled, sick, and disgusting. You gorillas, I think they meant gorillas, need to be in the Middle East. Stop speaking on non-black women's issues. Come on, ho. That's what she said. Don't worry, I will be reporting her. Okay? Now, with that all being said, Miss Mississippi says this is what they did to us, Queen. Yes, in slavery, of course it is. That's why I'm telling you, history repeats itself. That's exactly what's going on here, beloved. Okay, that's exactly what's going on here. It's the same old soup twice warmed over. Okay, now let's go to this next clip. And I think this lady is actually going to talk about the Blue Butterflies facility. Here we go.
Texas, ICE agents are separating underage girls from their families and placing them into restricted detention areas that reportedly cannot be freely accessed by family members, attorneys, any outside observers. And these areas are allegedly called the Blue Butterfly Units. At the South Texas Family Residential Center in Dilley, Texas, one of the largest immigration detention facilities in the United States. Housing areas are given very child-friendly names like Yellow Frog, Green Turtle, and Brown Bear. But one unit in particular has been standing out to a lot of people, and that is the Blue Butterfly Unit. And the symbolism behind that name is very deeply disturbing if you are at all familiar with the Epstein case currently playing out in the United States. The Blue Butterfly is not just a decoration. It is the official symbol of Speak Out, Act, Reclaim, SOAR, an organization that was founded by Virginia Giuffre. And Virginia Giuffre was one of the most well-known survivors of convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. She accused Epstein and his powerful associates of sexually abusing and trafficking her when she was a teenager. And for decades, she fought publicly, not just for herself, but for other survivors. And she created SOAR to give victims resources and support and a voice. And she chose the blue butterfly as its symbol because it represents transformation, the process of becoming free, the process of surviving abuse and like reclaiming your own life. And after her death in April of 2025, her family wore blue butterfly pins in her memory. To survivors, the blue butterfly means survival, like it means freedom and escape from abuse. So why is that exact symbol now reportedly being used to label restricted detention housing for underage girls held in federal custody by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement? And this week, international human rights observers and officials at the United Nations began using extremely strong language to describe U.S. immigration detention conditions, warning about the lack of transparency and the oversight and the treatment of the detainees here. And I think that's important because throughout history, there is a very clear and documented pattern when governments detain populations, especially women and children, and they separate them first, because separation removes witnesses, it removes protection, it can remove accountability. And history has shown that when vulnerable people are isolated in detention systems, whether it's prisons or camps or government custody, they have faced horrific abuses, including aggravated sexual abuse, forced medical procedures like exploitation, and deaths that families never fully get the answers for. That's not speculation. That is documented history across multiple countries, across multiple decades, which raises, I think, very serious and very urgent questions now. Why are teenage girls being separated from their families families inside ICE detention facilities. Why are they reportedly restricted areas that others cannot freely access? Why use a symbol that represents surviving SA to label those areas? And why is there so little transparency about what is happening inside of those areas? What is happening inside of the blue butterfly units?
Oh, so nefarious. Okay, at the end of the day. Now, Nice Innocent K says, Queen, don't let the bastards get you down. Honey, MAGA could never get me down, baby. Okay, they could never get me down. At the end of the day, I just didn't drag them for filth as I normally would because I'm on a roll. Okay, they come here to distract and cause chaos, but we're not having any of it today. Okay, that's what we're not having. All right, they just want to distract from the conversation because they're upset and mad and angry. Okay, now let's continue. Thanks, beloved.
Girls keep testing positive for pregnancy at ICE detention centers. I don't know why I said underage girls. What I meant to say was children. There are children as young as like 12 and 13 who are testing positive for pregnancy while being kept at an ICE detention center. They're discussing in the news like how they're trying to build some new kind of system to keep them away from the guard. What? But go about your...
Now pay attention to what he said. They're trying to come up with a new system to keep them away from the guards. What does that tell us? That the guards are graping them. So why isn't there an investigation being conducted? Why aren't they making these guards give DNA samples when these babies are born so they can find out which ones of them are doing this? Okay, this is the same stuff that happened in Gaza. Are y'all paying attention? Are y'all paying attention? This is the same things. And didn't I tell you all this was coming? I am absolutely livid. And we all should be standing outside of those damn detention centers right now, raising hell. How are they going to keep getting away with this? How are they going to keep getting away with this? But pay attention, people, because if they're doing this right now, what do you think they're going to do when they start rounding us up? That's right. I said it, when they start rounding us up. Because, beloveds, that is the plan. Y'all just don't know it yet. That is the diabolical plan. And they already put it in play decades ago. And I can't talk to you about it on ScrewTube because the last person that did, their whole channel got snatched. I keep telling y'all that, okay? I'm going to have to do a very detailed story about this on Rumble, just so you all know the danger that we are all in, okay? Please pay attention, okay? This is absolutely egregious. Let's continue.
Day. Still got to pay rent. Still got to... You gotta catch Survivor. Can't miss that. It's the season 50. Isn't that great? ICE detention centers, children testing positive for pregnancy. I wonder what the challenge they'll do this week. ICE detention centers, children.
Absolutely nefarious. And basically him talking about Survivor is saying that people are just going on with their regular everyday lives like none of this ish is happening. Okay, we cannot sit here and keep being silent. This is absolutely egregious. All right, this is happening to children. Now, whether you care about the immigrants or not, these are babies. Okay? And something has to be done to put a stop to it. It absolutely has to. This is absolutely egregious. These are crimes against humanity. And remember how I already told you that how back in the day when they had those people, BB's people, putting on those yellow stars, okay, to let the Yahtzees know who they were. I showed you footage weeks ago where they were checking people, stopping people that looked like they weren't born here, and making them put on red wristbands after they finished checking them so they know that this is someone who's already been cleared. It's absolutely egregious. But let's continue, because do you all remember this report when Rachel Maddow was talking about it, about those children being taken in the dark of night and all of that and separated? She couldn't even contain herself. If y'all don't remember this.
This has just come out from the Associated Press. This is incredible. Trump administration officials have been sending babies and other young children. Oh, hold on. To at least 3. Can we put up the graphic of this? Thank you. Do we have it? No. 3 tender age shelters in South Texas. Lawyers and medical providers. Just, I think I'm going to have to hand this off. Yeah. Sorry. That does it for us tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow. Now it is time for the last word with Lawrence O'Donnell, where he is live in Brownsville, Texas. Live in Brownsville.
That is absolutely so sad. Okay? And that's what it looks like to be mad as hell, angry, and to feel hopeless and helpless. Okay? It absolutely is shameful. Okay? Absolutely egregious. Like, can we even believe that this is happening in 2026? But let's continue. Now we're going to talk about Cuba. But before we get into the Cuba story, I just want you all to remember something. I want to go back to a moment in time. Some of you you may not even know about. And I think I mentioned this to you all before, not too long ago, but someone did a video about it. And I want you all to listen to this, especially if you've never heard about this. This is how much your government doesn't give a darn about children, especially your children, our children, Black and brown children.
Did you know Black foster children were used in AIDS drug testing between the 1990s and 2000s? And the thing is, this is just like 1% of all the bullshit they did to them, bro. Like, as fucked up as it is for me to say this, bro, like, how much can one ethnic group take, bro? And the thing is, they've been doing this bullshit to y'all for more than 400 years now. And it gets to a point, bro. Like, these corporations and institutions and elites and government agencies, they don't give a fuck about y'all. They don't. They really don't. I told y'all, melanated people in general, Black people, indigenous people, y'all were the first ones that they needed to test on before mass population control. Y'all were the first ones. Y'all were the first ones they had to test on and experiment on. So during the 1990s and early 2000s, hundreds of foster children, the vast majority of whom were Black and Latino, were enrolled in government-funded AIDS drug trials across at least 7 U.S. states. These children, many of them infants, were given experimental antiretroviral medications whose safety for children was largely unknown at the time. The trials were funded by the National Institutes of Health and carried out by top research institutions, with New York City at the center of the controversy. Critically, most of these children were enrolled without the independent legal advocates required by federal law to protect their interests. Some children experienced serious side effects, including rashes, vomiting, and dangerous drops in white blood cell counts, and at least 10 died during the studies. And y'all still trust these people, right? All these scientific research motherfuckers, y'all still trust them with your lives and your health after all this bullshit that's getting exposed. And you know what's crazy? Black people and Latinos, like, we've been knew this, bro. We've known this for decades. But for the ones that don't know, that's okay. I'm about to tell y'all. While officials defended the trials as a desperate response to a pediatric AIDS crisis, federal investigators ultimately confirmed that ethical and legal rules had been broken, leaving a deeply troubling legacy around the use of vulnerable children of color in medical experimentation. And I told you guys, Black, melanated, Latino, and indigenous people, we were the first.
I'm sorry, you all. I was distracted. I was reading the comments. Now, listen to this. Okay, Denise King says, Yahweh is still in control. Pray to him. Call out to him. He hears your prayers. Prayers has stopped so much. Ask God to intervene soon. Here's the thing, beloveds. I know you want to think God is in control. God does have supreme authority. Okay, God is the almighty creator who reigns supreme. Okay, with control over all nations, nature, and events. We know that from Psalm 47:7 and also Daniel 5:21. But also, do you know that Jesus says that the devil, Satan, okay, Satan is the ruler of this world. Read John 12:31. That's what it says. Satan is the ruler of this world. And that indicates that he influences world current systems, philosophies, and those who do not believe. And that's 2 Corinthians verses 4-4. Okay, so I beg to differ. If God were in control right now, none of this would be going on. Okay? Measure Man says they just signed another contract for hepatitis injection and studies for Black boys and Latino boys. I'm not surprised. Okay, I'm not surprised. Thank you, beloved, for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Soul Sister says John 12:31 reads, it's Satan ruling. It is Satan ruling. Yes, this is the work of the devil. Okay, this is the work of Satan. Let's continue. This is all so egregious. Now, let's talk about Cuba, because what Trump is doing to Cuba is a crime against humanity. And I don't know how he is allowed to get away with this. And also, it has come to my attention that people have been trying to get aid to Cuba. Russia has tried to send oil to Cuba, and they have been blocked from doing so. Okay, I want you all to pay attention how low down and dirty. But hold on. Not Trump, but America wants us to think that Putin is the problem. Now, Trump kisses Putin's behind, but I'm just saying the rest of the government wants us to think Putin is the problem. No, he isn't. Okay, we're the problem. Okay, the problem is us, people. The call's coming from inside the house. It's America. America's the bully. America's the devil. America is the terrorist nation. That's who we are. And it makes me so sick to my stomach every time they say, this isn't who we are, but it is. It's exactly who we are. Okay? As a collective. This is who America has always been. Okay? The American dream is nothing more than a nightmare. Okay, Soul Sister said America is the great Satan. Yes. Isn't that what they call us over in the Middle East, as well as BB's people? Let's continue.
News out of Cuba right now, where a convoy of creators, activists, journalists, and more have landed in Havana to deliver aid to the Cuban people who are under a blockade and an illegal siege by the Empire of the United States, LED, by dictator Donald Trump. The Cuban people right now are with a broken electrical grid. They are struggling to eat and to have water, and there is a shortage of medical supplies, which is why you see this coalition of people from all over the world joining forces to not only deliver aid to the Cuban people, but also to expose the crimes against humanity that are being committed by the United States of America under the Trump administration, and to try and expose the stories of what's happening on the ground to break this blockade. I've got multiple friends and colleagues. We're on the ground in Havana right now, and if I get updates from them, I will gladly share them with you. But this is an absolutely positive development we are seeing from real American patriots, as well as, like I said, people from all over the world. You've got people from Spain, from France, from other parts of Latin America, just like we saw the flotilla join forces of people from all over the world to try and deliver aid to Gaza.
Absolutely egregious. You know, I noticed lately that a lot of content creators, well, I'm not going to say a lot, but some content creators use AI to give their reports. I think I may start doing that so I can do extra reports, because I get tired sometimes. Okay, now let's continue. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. That's right, Robert. Unsanitary conditions. And you know that it's a breeding ground for disease and sickness, and they already have trouble enough as it is.
First glance, life in Cuba's capital of Havana feels familiar. The famous Malecon Avenue by the sea, the colorful buildings and antique cars. But these street scenes, quieter than just a few months ago, disguise a city and a nation now in crisis.
The power hasn't come back on at my house, and we've been about 12 hours without lights. And well, I plan to face the day as usual, just as Cubans do.
This week, the country faced the third wide-scale failure of its power grid since December. Without enough gas, less than half of Havana's trash trucks are allowed to run. Piles of garbage spill over into the historic streets. And as the sun sets, a now routine darkness takes over, with 10 million people left without light, pitch black streets, and no electricity to cook the little food people are able to find.
We are two older people, both in our 70s, and she's also sick. Our food has spoiled. I'm boiling 3 pieces of chicken to try and save something to eat because the situation is really bad.
Really bad, really bad. We have nothing left. We're doing really bad, and I just want to die so I can get some rest from this country. And God forbid.
This is all so sad. This woman saying she wants to die. It's absolutely egregious and heartbreaking. Ryan says Queen needs a clone so the original can take naps. Okay? I literally do, beloveds. All right? Now, with that all being said, this is absolutely egregious. And here's the thing. Like I told you all, Trump has basically ordered these other nations not to dare try to give them any oil, or he's going to, impose these sanctions and tariffs upon them. Okay? Now, many of them have been sending solar panels, trying to get solar panels and things to them. Like China has really, I think China sent like 5,000, if I'm not mistaken. But this is so low down. I don't know how, everyone isn't just completely outraged.
Forgive me for speaking like this.
Cuba has long dealt with blackouts, a system hampered by an aging power grid, U.S. sanctions, and fuel shortages was further crippled after an American raid in Venezuela, Cuba's ally, led to a total energy blockade and to ramped up threats from President Trump.
Taking Cuba, I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very weakened nation right now.
A message echoed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
So they're in a lot.
Trump could very well want Cuba so that he and his nefarious son-in-law, Jared Kushner, can go over there and start building resorts and casinos or whatever they want to do so they can grift. Okay? So they can grift. Okay, Robert said, Afeni Shakur just passed away there. You mean Assata Shakur? Assata. Yes, she did. And I'm glad you brought that up because I was about to mention that I'm so glad that our dear beloved sister, Assata Shakur, is not there. That she's going on into the spiritual realm. She's not there to have to deal with this, okay, at her age. This is all so egregious. But yeah, like I said, Trump likely wants to flee there before they try to arrest him for crimes against humanity and war crimes and everything else that he has done. Low down, dirty devil. Let's continue.
A lot of trouble. And the people in charge, they don't know how to fix it. So they have to get new people in charge.
Back on the island, anxiety about what comes next.
What will happen to Cuba, the world asks. And we're also here at this moment saying to ourselves, what will happen to us? But I truly believe there will be dialogue and understanding.
And defying President Trump's sanctions, 2 tankers carrying crude oil are on their way to Cuba after Russia declared its unwavering solidarity. See,
let me tell you something, beloveds. Trump can't threaten Russia. Okay, Trump can't threaten Russia, and he knows it. Putin is not playing any games with him. He knows it. Putin's a real leader. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. That's a real leader at the end of the day. And I wonder what Trump is going to do now, because remember, Japan told him that they would basically help him. His allies are saying that they'll help him if he gets Putin to fall back on the attacks on Ukraine. How do you think that's going to work? Okay, Putin's not taking any orders or suggestions from Trump. That's what he's not going to do.
Hear more about the evolving situation in Cuba, including the political stakes. I'm joined by Lillian Guerra, a professor of Cuban and Caribbean history at the University of Florida. Professor Guerra, welcome to the NewsHour. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So at the end of that report, you heard a little bit of hope from that gentleman there about dialogue between the U.S. and the Cuban government. What do we know about those talks and what could come of them?
Well, first, we know very little about the talks. We know that there are two major members of the Castro family who have been the spokespeople, allegedly. At least one of them is the grandson of Raul Castro, and the other has a similar relationship. He's the grandnephew of both Fidel and Raul. Now, both of these men have very, very high ranks in what is Gaesa, the Cuban military's corporate conglomerate that really controls 80% of the economy. And they have no legitimacy in the eyes of the Cuban people. It is important to note, though, that because they control the economy and they also control the armed forces, they are apparently the ones that Trump's administration is turning to in order to negotiate some form of transition. And I find that very problematic, along with probably a majority of Cubans in this country and those on the island.
So put that together with the U.S. calls for a change in leadership in Cuba. Could one of these people involved in the talks now be in charge? And what would that look like?
In fact,
a change in leadership in Cuba. I'm sorry, but we need a change in leadership here in the United States. And I don't mean J.D. Vance replacing Trump, because both of those demons need to be sent to prison. But let's continue.
one of them, Oscar Perez Oliva Fraga, is often called the economy czar. And he was put forward as early as November of 2025 by the Cuban Communist Party itself as a replacement for President Miguel Díaz-Canel when he completes his term in office. So if he were to take power, it would actually be exactly what the Cuban Communist Party would like. I think that right now, we don't know exactly what is next. And the Cuban people don't know either, because they often don't have electricity and can't charge their phones. They don't have access to television. Their government censors the news. So they're really reliant in many ways on social media and word of mouth to find out what's happening. I think that the best case scenario would be one in which the Cuban government would finally do something to alleviate the economic and political repression on the island by simply saying that they will agree to legalize opposition political parties, and that in some way or another they will reduce the management of the economy by the armed forces, which really should have no role in managing the economy.
We should point out, too, a lot of people in Cuba rely on family members outside of the country to send in supplies, to send in money to help sustain them. How does all of that impact the Cuban economy, and what does that look like now?
Yes, actually, if Marco Rubio is right about one thing, it is that there is still a subsidy in Cuba, and that subsidies are what the Cuban government has been dependent on. So that subsidy is the billions of dollars a year in goods and in cash that Cubans like myself send their relatives, and we will find any way to do so. A lot of money comes in simply with mules, which are people who travel to Cuba from Colombia, from Mexico, from New York, wherever they can travel, and they charge a commission and they bring in things for our family. We are allegedly, according to many economists' measures, supporting about 40% of the population. I think that part of the problem with that scenario in general is that not everybody has family abroad, and the vast majority of Black Cubans, who comprise at least 40 to 50% of the population, do not have family abroad. It's more than poverty, it's immiseration. And all we have are different degrees of immiseration among the Cuban people.
Professor, I've got about 30 seconds left, but I have to ask, Cuba's faced crises before. Do you see this one leading to real change in the country?
I think that something will happen because expectations are extremely high, both on the island and in South Florida. And frankly, the longer it takes to come to some decision, the more likely it is that Cubans will take to the streets and start attacking the Cuban Communist Party headquarters in different places, and perhaps simply confront the state themselves. And that would be devastating, I think, because nobody has weapons in Cuba. All they have are their ideals.
That is Professor Lillian Guerra of the University of Florida joining us tonight. Professor, thank you so much.
Now, in just a minute after this next clip, beloveds, we're going to go to Ben Masalis from Midas Touch, because he did a report. Hold on, let me just see here. He did a report about how Trump panics over Putin's ultimatum. See, I told y'all, Trump's not calling any shots with Putin. Putin's the one calling the shots, and he's going to keep doing so because Trump's a whole coward. He doesn't have a backbone. Trump just talks tough to people that are afraid of him because he yields power. Okay, at the end of the day, when anyone stands up to him, he crumbles.
Power grid is collapsed. The island has been dark for days. Russia sent oil tankers to help, and the world packed medicine and solar panels, and that's getting through, thankfully. But the oil, today, the United States blocked that too. I've been to Cuba. I've walked those streets. This is not a victory. It's a humanitarian crisis. And
now, let me just tell you, her video was posted 19 hours ago. The video I showed you where they were talking about Russia sending tankers to Cuba, that was 24 hours ago. That was a day ago. So with that all being said, they blocked Russia from from bringing the oil to them. Okay, this is what the devils are doing. Okay, please pay attention.
the United States is engineering it. We're complicit. Last week, Trump publicly mused about having the honor of taking Cuba, spoken like a man who is used to getting what he wants, a man accused of sexual assault numerous times. Disgusting. Here's what I think what's actually going on. Trump has wanted to build hotels, casinos, and golf courses in Cuba since 1998. He registered the Trump trademark there in 2008. There are actual sketches of the Trump Tower Havana. So when he talks about taking Cuba, I don't hear freedom. I hear oceanfront real estate. I hear greed. Between 2021 and 2023, 850,000 Cubans left for the United States. That's nearly 8% of the entire population, leaving Cuba seeking opportunity. Now, Trump has banned their visas and is deporting the ones who made it. 403 people have been sent back since January. So what are we doing? Blocking the oil, collapsing the grid, ban the legal path here, deport the ones who made it. That is not policy. That's a siege. And the numbers on the ground in Cuba are staggering. 64% of the island has no reliable power. The average Cuban is in the dark 15 to 20 hours a day. And even hospitals are facing regular interruptions. Internet traffic dropped 65% when the grid went down. And most Cubans can't get online. It's always been challenging there, but right now it's especially bad. They can't see what's being said about them. They are in the dark in every sense of the word. I made a video with the full history, and I'm going to tag that in the comments. You can see what it looks like here. But the short version, layered U.S. sanctions, COVID, and a full oil blockade have left Cuba's reserves near zero. But thankfully, the rest of the world is showing up, or at least they're trying.
Let me just remind you all of something, beloveds. Let me just remind you all of something and let you know why this is so wicked and nefarious. Because let us not forget how Cuban doctors traveled to the United States, okay, or they offered to travel to the United States during COVID. Do you all remember that? They offered to come over here and help, okay?
Trying to. An international convoy delivered 5 tons of medical supplies, cancer drugs, antibiotics, surgical materials, all valued at over $570,000. That arrived March 18th. Travelers are hand-carrying medical kits on commercial flights all week. And a Mexican flotilla departed the port of Progreso on the 19th. 140 activists left Miami this morning with more aid. And tomorrow, March 21st, they will all converge at the port of Havana. 20 tons of food, medicine, and solar panels. And Russia had 2 tankers en route, 730,000 barrels of crude, enough for 9 to 10 days, just 9 to 10 days of Cuban energy needs. The first shipment from any nation in 3 months. And then today, the United States Treasury formally blocked it, while the ships are already in the water. How does the U.S. have this power? Well, on January 29th of this year, Trump signed Executive Order 14380, officially declaring Cuba as a national security threat, triggering a law called IEEPA, which lets him sanction any foreign entity doing business with Cuba. OFAC, the Treasury's enforcement arm, blacklists the ships directly. And once blacklisted, they're cut off completely from the global financial system because the world runs on US dollars. No bank will touch them. and no American-linked port will let them dock. Defy it, and your country faces tariffs. That's American economic power weaponized against a small island right now.
But I want you all to pay attention because America is about to lose that economic power. They're about to lose it, and Trump is the reason. Okay, like I've been telling you all for the past year, Trump is dismantling America from the inside out. And when he is done, when his job has been completed, you will see the rise of another nation of people. Okay, and those people who have somewhat of control over us at this point will have complete and utter and full control. Okay, there may be people worshiping Baal in the streets openly with statues. I want you all to pay attention and don't say that I didn't tell you.
If blocking civilian population's energy supply while calling it policy sounds familiar, it should. We watched this in Gaza. Different country, same playbook. Ordinary people paying the price for political chess. Look, you can want change for Cuba and believe there's a legal, humane path to get there, one that doesn't involve starving people into submission. I'm beside myself over this. Tell me where you stand.
Okay, I'm beside myself over it too. And thanks to her, shout out to her for that amazing breakdown in her clear research. Nice M10K said China. Beloved, you know darn well I'm not talking about China. China doesn't want world dominance. Okay, and if it were China, I would have said their name. But you can't say these people's names, can you? And you know why. Okay, so now with that all being said, I want you all to please pay attention because, hold on, I have one more video before we get into Putin and his ultimatum. Likes up, everyone. Please do not forget to like and share it. Thank you.
And think piece about how Donald Trump and Israel's illegal war against Iran may have just cost the United States of America Cuba. So if y'all don't know, the United States have been starving Cuba as well as keeping them in a blackout by intercepting the tankers that have been trying to deliver them fuel. What did China do while the United States was occupied with Israel and Iran? China sent Cuba 5,000 solar panel sets, all right, which is not only a good humanitarian move, but also establishing more Chinese presence in the region of Latin America. Furthermore, in March 2026, China sent 5,000 household solar energy equipment sets to Cuba to help alleviate a total national power blackout. These sets are being installed at rural homes, clinics, and elderly care centers. Additionally, China is assisting with 49 solar parks and has over 10,000 total individual kits planned to boost Cuba's solar capacity. Now, let's stop right here really quick. I'm not going to pretend to know the struggles of Cuba, and I'm not going to pretend to know what everything that the Cuban people went through. But for you all to sit up there and act like you are so hell-bent on freeing Cuba while 10,000 children are in the hospitals and not able to receive proper care, while 3,000 adults are in the hospital unable to send proper care. It doesn't matter how bad you want the Cuban economy or government to fall so you can free it. You should also consider your fellow compadres in Cuba, as well as the children of Cuba. That's why sometimes y'all priorities and y'all morals be so messed up, because yes, I understand you want to free your country, but you want to free your country at the expense of 13,000 innocent lives? Make it make sense. Anyway, these 2 kilowatt capacity kits are designed for homes in remote area and critical infrastructure, such as maternity and nursing homes. These installations aim to support a national energy crisis in which solar power has grown to provide over 20% of the island's electricity. Now, let's bring in Mexico. Mexico has set to resume fuel shipments to Cuba despite U.S. threats, because as y'all know, before the war in Iran started, Mexico tried to send 5 tankers of fuel to Cuba, which the USA was intercepting. But now, because the USA is so preoccupied with the Strait of Hormuz and sending all the resources that way, now Mexico is able to get those fuel shipments over to Cuba. Additionally, on top of fuel and solar power, China has sent 60,000 tons of rice to the people of Cuba. Okay, now let's put it in the context. The average Cuban consumes 60 kilograms of rice every year. China just donated enough rice on one batch to feed all of Cuba for 1 month. And I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. For years, they tried to make us think that China was the boogeyman when China has been nothing but humanitarian. in our eyes over the past couple of months, realistically over the past year or two, right? That's why it's so important to analyze and read and learn for yourself, because in the famous words of Malcolm X, they will have you hating the victims and loving the oppressors, right? But let's continue. I'm just sharing this post because I love the wording of it. Mexico will send oil to Cuba. Trump's blockade has fallen. 60 years of embargo, 60 years of trying to starve an island. Now Mexico breaks the siege. Oil shipments, solidarity, sovereignty. The U.S. can sanction, can threaten, can block. But neighbors help, neighbors deliver, neighbors don't forget. Cuba has been alone too long. Mexico just changed that. The blockade isn't gone, but it's cracked. And the cracks spread. Mexico sends oil, the world watches, the empire fumes. Solidarity wins every time. So you see what happens when you get involved with illegal and unjust wars against not only countries that are seemingly stronger than you and that are beating you on every single area, such as Iran is doing to us right now, which is why I will never stop saying, bring our troops home. But not only do you get preoccupied in losing wars, but you also lose out on the objectives that you had, because while the USA got so busy with Iran, Cuba just slipped away from them, and it's going to slip away from them more in the coming weeks. Now, listen, I'm not going to pretend like I know the politics of Cuba. There's a lot of Cubans here in Miami, and I don't know what their personal gripes are with the Cuban government, and I don't know if the current administration in Cuba is similar to Fidel Castro. I'm not going to pretend to know what's going on, but I'm going to pretend to know what's going on in terms of 10,000 children being in the hospital and needing that fuel for their operations and for their treatments. And if you are against 10,000 children getting treatments, I don't care what happened between you and your, history in Cuba, you are not a good person. When there are 3,000 elderly people that are dependent on this fuel for treatments, for surgeries, etc., and you are still so hell-bent on freeing Cuba, even at the expense of these 13,000 lives, you might need to question your own morals, because you may be a person that has lost your soul. This is my thing.
Okay, no lies detected. Now, with that all being said, we the people said, wasn't them the Cubans that made the I will vote for Donald Trump? Well, no, that wasn't them, beloveds. Those are the ones who live here in the U.S. who thought that they would be free or safe from deportation. The ones over there in Cuba, they didn't have anything to do with that vote. So we definitely can't blame them, because some of their people are complete idiots. Okay, with that all being said, let me go to some of the other comments. Robert says, I'm worried about our power grids, as you should be. Okay, because listen, I do believe that the false flag that the United States is allegedly, in my opinion, about to do and blame it on Iran, I do think that that may possibly have something to do with the power grid. Okay, at the very least, it's going to be something catastrophic. And I will say this, I've been telling you all since 2020, I predicted something going down with the power grid. I did a whole PowerPoint presentation. Do I need to put that back up? Because I think that I will. But I just want you all to pay attention to how everything that's happening right here, right now, I predicted this in 2020. I told you all these things were going to happen. Starseed Oracle says famine is coming. I also told you that on Thanksgiving Day of 2020. Okay, I told you all that there was going to be a famine. I did a TikTok that went viral, okay, about that on my old TikTok channel, because I've lost 2 TikTok channels or accounts. I'm on my 3rd one because I keep going in about things they don't want you talking about, but I will continue. So please pay attention. This is all so crazy. And at the end of the day, here's the thing. How I was telling you all that Cuba sent doctors. They volunteered doctors during COVID. And here's what the United States did. I want you to pay attention. They didn't want to accept the offer of help, to the detriment of the people here who were dying during the pandemic. Cuba sent white coat army medical brigades to assist over 24 countries during the pandemic, including European nations like Italy, and they didn't deploy to the United States because when they offered it, the U.S. government did not request the help and said they didn't want it. And in fact, they pressured other countries to refuse Cuba's medical assistance. Okay, with the State Department arguing that Cuba was only exploiting its doctors as a source of revenue as the programs were abusive. What? This is the lie they told, and they continue to lie. Okay, and here's the thing, how you know they were all cap and full of BS is because Cuba has medical diplomacy. Okay, they have historically deployed health workers during public health crises, not just during COVID. Okay, they saw the pandemic as an opportunity for international solidarity, sending thousands of their doctors worldwide. And it was just so sad and egregious that the United States not only refused them and their services that could have saved many thousands, I'm sure, but they tried to get other countries not to take their help as well. How low down are they? Okay, I'm sorry, who is a terrorist nation? The biggest one of all? Okay, I want you all to pay attention. And here's the thing. They talk about, one of their excuses also was they talked about political tensions, the U.S. that is. They said, that they've long considered Cuba's medical internationalism a form of human trafficking and discouraged its use, particularly in Cuban and Latin America. Now, I'm sorry, what? How can the United States accuse any other nation of human trafficking when this is the home of it? 800,000 children go missing in this country per year. I want you to think about that. Let me say it again. 800,000 children go missing in this country annually. Okay, where do those children go? All right. Did you all know that Disney was allegedly sending children to Epstein's Island for snorkeling events? Did y'all know that? And this country wants to talk about, I've told you all about Epstein Island. I was telling you all about Epstein Island in 2020. But also, I was telling you all about Nickelodeon. I told you about Disney, all these PDF-affiliated organizations, the Boy Scouts of America. Okay? I've told you all about these things recently. Francis Sheldon and the island that he had, trafficking children and then got away with it scot-free, moved to the Netherlands. Okay? And then just last night, the attorney Michael Merriman, who had the island, Rattlesnake Island, who was allegedly tied to Rattlesnake Island. Dr. Frankelston is the one who purchased it in 1999. The allegations of trafficking, and then the attorney dies 1 month before he was to go to court. Now, if you missed that broadcast that I did last night, please make sure you tune into it, because ScrewTube definitely didn't send out the notifications. Okay, now with that all being said, let's go to this report from Midas Touch. I'm going to use an overlay because I don't have permission to use this video. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Vladimir Putin just put him on blast and made a public ultimatum trying to call Donald Trump and Trump's regime out. Putin said that, yes, he is giving intelligence to Iran, but he said that he would stop giving intelligence to Iran to help Iran target American soldiers, kill Americans, and harm American interests, so long as the United States cuts off support to Ukraine.
Hold on, let's stop right there. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that report from Politico? Yeah, he wants them to cut off support from Ukraine. Okay? Now, with that all being said, Putin has admitted that he's been given intel to Iran. But didn't Trump and his lying arse administration say, they're not helping. They might be helping a little bit, but remember that? Because Trump knows better than to call out Putin. He already knows that Putin has the goods on him. How many times have I told you all that I absolutely believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Putin has footage of Trump doing nefarious things with those children? If you remember, Putin said they've been eating human flesh, filling their bellies with human flesh. And he said their vampire ball is over. So you don't think he knows what went on in the Epstein files? Okay, please pay attention, but I want you all to listen to Steve Witkoff, okay, with his lying self. This is what he said, but now Putin just made him and Trump look like the fools that they are.
I think that the Russians have shared intelligence about the location of U.S. military assets, and if they have, why would we be giving waivers on Russian oil sanctions?
Well, I'm not an intel officer, so I can't tell you. I can tell you that yesterday on the call with the president, The Russians said that they have not been sharing. That's what they said. So, you know, we can take them at their word, but they did say that. And yesterday morning, independently, Jared and I had a call with Ushakov, who reiterated the same. So I you know, that's a better question for the intel people, but let's hope that they're not sharing.
Stupid self said they could take them at their word. Well, clearly you couldn't. And that should have been common sense. Okay, how stupid can they be? And then pay attention. He said he and Jared had a call. Why in the hell is Jared Kushner being involved in any type of negotiations with other countries like Iran? And why is he on a call with Putin? Who is he besides Trump's son-in-law? Okay? And how is he allowed to just be all up in government policy and foreign policy and all of that? Don't y'all find this all so interesting? Because I sure do. Okay? Soul Sister said, I believe Putin does have information on this regime. Does he? I told you all weeks ago, he does have information on this regime, and it was given to him by Trump. Okay, his intelligence doesn't have to go and find out anything. Trump's been running his mouth to Putin. I guarantee you. Okay, I absolutely believe it. Now, I can't prove that, but that's absolutely my opinion that the call is coming from inside the White House. Okay, please pay attention. I absolutely believe it. Okay, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Okay, Lauren said, thank you, Queen. Been listening for years. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. Nice Intim K says Jared isn't even an ambassador to anything in part of the cabinet. Exactly. So why is he running things? Oh, that's right. Because he's Trump's handler. Okay, I do believe that he's Trump's handler. Okay, please pay attention. And another person with the Antichrist spirit that Trump clearly has. Okay, that Trump clearly has, and so does Satan Yahoo. They all have it. And it's not a coincidence that Jared looks like the Omen, okay? And so does Baron Trump, by the way. Now, with that all being said, let's continue.
Military level is rejecting this proposal, although Donald Trump has not commented. But this has left many across the world incredibly nervous that this is a deal that Donald Trump is contemplating. Moscow proposed a quid pro quo, and you know Donald Trump loves quid pro quos to the U.S., although Donald Trump never makes good on his side of the quid pro quo, unless it's Vladimir Putin, under which the Kremlin would stop sharing intelligence information with Iran, such as the precise coordinates of U.S. military assets in the Middle East, if Washington ceased supplying Ukraine with intelligence about Russia. Two people familiar with the U.S.-Russia negotiations said that such a proposal was made by Russian envoy Kirill Dmitriev to Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff and his other envoy Jared Kushner during their meeting at the end of last week. It's being reported that the existence of this proposal has sparked major concern among European diplomats who worry Moscow is trying to drive a wedge between Europe and the United States at a critical moment for transatlantic relations, to which Donald Trump posted this morning the following. Again, while this war is raging out of control in the Middle East, Trump attacked NATO. Right. So Putin makes this offer to Trump. Trump's response is to say the following: without the U.S., NATO is a paper tiger. They didn't want to join the fight to stop a nuclear-powered Iran. Now the fight is militarily won with very little danger for them. They complain about the high oil prices they are forced to pay, but don't want to help open the Strait of Hormuz. A simple military maneuver that is the single reason for the high oil prices. So easy for them to do with so little risk. Cowards. And we will remember Donald J. Trump calling NATO and our European allies coward. And right now, the markets are reacting horribly to Donald Trump's abhorrent and unlawful war against Iran. Investors are now betting that the overall U.S. inflation in the next 12 months will surge above 5%. We're now talking about likely interest rate hikes versus lowering interest rates as a result of this disastrous war and the inflation that it's going to cause.
I don't think it will be surprising if the price per barrel of oil hits $200. Saudi Arabia is predicting it will be at least $180 per barrel. And Donald Trump continues to panic. As I reported earlier today, Donald Trump is sending more troops for a possible ground, to use Donald Trump's words, excursion, but other people would call it an invasion of Iran, specifically the Karg Island, which is in the northern Persian Gulf, right by the Strait of Hormuz. Donald Trump considering doing a blockade against the Strait of Hormuz, and this as all NATO allies and essentially every country that Donald Trump has reached out to, while Donald Trump has begged like a dog for help after Donald Trump went this war alone with him and Netanyahu without telling anybody that they were going to invade Iran. Now Donald Trump is out there calling NATO cowards. By the way, do you remember just a few days ago, as Carl Quintanilla writes, when Witkoff told Quintanilla on CNBC that Vladimir Putin was not sharing any intel with Iran and that we had to, quote, take him at his word? Take me at my word, everybody. They're not doing it. The issue is this regime is led by total liars. Just a reminder, here is what Witkoff said last.
We already know what Witkoff said because I just showed it. But with that all being said, shout out to Ben Masalis for Midas Touch because he goes in on Trump, and I'm here for all of it. Okay? But now I want you all to pay attention because he said, and mind you, he was being sarcastic when he said Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's envoy, and Jared Kushner, his other envoy. Jared does not have an official cabinet position, so he was clearly being nefarious, okay? But here's the thing. Democrats have accused the son-in-law, Jared Kushner, of seeking to raise billions of dollars for his private investment fund while meeting with foreign leaders on behalf of President Donald Trump. Okay, just because he's married to Trump's daughter, Ivanka, he has no government job, and the nerve of him to be even being allowed to meet with these foreign officials, okay? It's absolutely a conflict of interest, and it should not be allowed. Talking about peace talks and all of that BS. Okay, listen, we're almost done, but before I conclude the broadcast, I want to go to this video where Pete Hegseth, or shall I say Pete Kegsbreath, let's call him by who he is, actually met with the Gold Star father of Ohio Airmen, okay, that lost his life. And the father describes his encounter. Now, I have not watched this video, so I don't know whether the encounter was good or bad, but I can only imagine. But let's go to it because I just saw this come across my timeline. Okay, likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, nice M10K said, nepotism, much? Absolutely. And let us not forget, and I know some of you are probably tired of hearing me say this, but I have to repeat it so that everybody knows the extent of to which this dude, Jared Kushner, is tied in with Satan Yahoo and those folks. That's because he's one of those folks. His father, Charles Kushner, went to prison and Trump pardoned him, okay, in 2020, not to mention Charles Kushner and Jared are good friends, likely besties with Satan Yahoo, and Jared once bragged about how Satan Yahoo spent the night at their home and in his bed, slept in his bed. I wonder if they cuddled and if they slept together. Okay, that's just what I wonder because we know how they are supposedly getting down. Okay, but let's continue.
Honor their sacrifice. Do not waver. Do not stop until the job is done. My response, along with that of the president, was simple. Of course, we will finish this.
Those comments by War Secretary Pete Hegseth are causing a major controversy tonight.
During a Pentagon briefing about the 6 American service members who were killed in Iraq, Hegseth said their families told him to finish the war in Iran. 3 of those airmen were from right here in Ohio, and the father of Master Sergeant Tyler Simmons tells ABC6 that was not what they talked about.
He sat down with our Terry Sullivan today.
Just so proud of him. It was an honor to be his father. And I was so blessed to have him as a son.
Milo Simmons glows when he talks about his only son, Master Sergeant Tyler Simmons.
He had just a magnanimous personality, never met a stranger, would light up the room with his smile with his disposition.
Tyler Simmons was among 6 crew members killed when their refueling plane crashed in Iraq. Simmons says last Monday's ceremony at Dover Air Force Base is still surreal. The Simmons family was the first to be greeted by the president and his team.
Much to my pleasant surprise, I saw emotion in the president's face. Because usually when you see him on television, he's just being the stern leader. I get that. But his humanity showed in that moment.
And then Defense Secretary Hegseth
Shook hands, conveyed to him Tyler was my only son. And they had been briefed on his record, so they were aware of his record. And, you know, we embraced, thanked me for Tyler's service.
They said, finish this. Honor their sacrifice. Do not waver. Do not stop until the job is done. My response, along with that of the president, was simple. Of course, we will finish this.
So that's not your experience.
No, I set the tone. Right out the bat. Thank you for being here for Tyler Simmons. And so I can't speak to what he said to other families because I wasn't in there.
Simmons says his words were later twisted by a different group.
And their headline was, Defense Secretary is called out to be a liar by the father of Tyler Simmons. I didn't say that. And I did give them a rebuttal. I don't appreciate it when the media takes a tragedy and wants to use it as a political diving board, per se. I think that is profoundly shows a lack of integrity and is not what journalism is supposed to be about.
Simmons says the focus should be on the lives that were lost.
They were heroes, and that should be the focus. Keep politics in its place. But from my position, this is no place for politics. Honoring our fallen, honoring our loved ones.
Loved ones who gave the ultimate sacrifice. On your side, Terry Sullivan, ABC 6 News.
The 3 Ohio airmen served in the 121st Air Refueling Wing with the Air National Guard out of Rickenbacker. Adjutant General Matthew Woodruff commands the Ohio Army National Guard, and he has been spending time with the local wing and the families of those fallen airmen. He says they faced complex work. They helped refuel planes while in midair. Woodruff was part of that dignified transfer for those fallen service members at Dover Air Force Base earlier this week. He says that gathering was an important moment for those families.
One of the really humbling things about the dignified transfer was we had put a request in, if the families wanted to, that they could fly back with us on a KC-135 that we took out there. And they all came back with us. And I think that was probably a really good experience. I hope it was a good experience for them.
A dignified arrival at Rickenbacker is expected in the coming weeks. The Pentagon is still investigating this plane crash, but says it was not hit by hostile or friendly fire. General Woodruff says prevention efforts will be strengthened after this incident to ensure the safety of servicemen.
Thanks for watching the ABC 6 News YouTube channel.
Bringing you breaking news.
Okay, now do you all believe that? Okay, do you all believe that? Okay, because I clearly don't. With that all being said, listen, I find it very interesting. I find it absolutely interesting. Okay, and I'll tell you one thing, right about now, don't we all miss Obama? Hold on, Malice said Cag's Breath threatened to arrest SNL comedian that impersonated him. Who does he think he is that no one can crack a joke on him? I find it all interesting, don't you? Who does he think he is? I mean, at the end of the day, if we're not careful, beloveds, I want you all to pay attention. Because if we're not careful, these devils will have us to the point that it will be illegal to criticize them. And I warned you all of this about 3 or 4 years ago. I told you they're going to implement here the credit reporting, the social credit reporting system. And then they're going to dictate what we can say and when we can say it, even what we can read, what kind of knowledge we can obtain. But meanwhile, Trump's going around the globe trying to pretend that he's going in on these countries that are communist or that are inhumane, but the United States is the most inhumane country as far as I'm concerned. Please pay attention. Nice M10K says judge overturned Hegseth ban on media in Pentagon. Good, because they should be transparent. Why are they trying to hide the facts of what's going on with this war? Well, that's because they're losing. Okay, that's why they keep spewing propaganda. That's why they want all of the media to feel threatened if they come out and speak against them. That's why they took the funding from PBS. Okay? I want y'all to pay attention. Nice M10K, thank you for your contribution to the channel, your insight into the topic, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, I have one more video that I want to show you all, just so we can all reminisce on how good we actually had it, though we complained and didn't think we had it so good. But now, in hindsight, we can see that we never had it as bad as it's looking now, and it's only going to get worse. Believe me when I tell you, dark days are ahead. Okay? Measurement said he's so tough he banned photographers in the Pentagon because he didn't like a picture they used of him. Absolutely. I talked about that last week. And we're sitting up here struggling with the economy, gas prices going sky high, and then people getting killed over in wars, a war that shouldn't even have been started. But Pete Kegsbreath was worried about a picture that they took of him and didn't feel that he looked becoming. Okay, please pay attention. Thank you for your insight into the topic, beloved, and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, let me go to this last clip, and then the Queen's out of here. Hold tight. Now, mind you, beloveds, I'm going to mute the audio on this because they're playing Michael Jackson's song, You Are Not Alone. And when I tell you, I cried when I saw this video last night and listened to that song because that's one of my favorite Michael Jackson songs. So I'm going to mute that because I don't want any copyright strikes or issues. Y'all know how it is. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, I'll just add my own music. Okay, here we go. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. And thank you in advance. right, so with that all being said, Carly said, at least we got respect from around the world. Absolutely. Okay, absolutely. All right, and so with that all being said, I'm about to be up out of here. Let me read a few of the comments. Lieutenant Muxwa, or MXY, says, few presidents have done the damage to the USA as Reagan, Biden, and Bush. All three traitors, in my opinion. Absolutely. And let's not leave out Nixon. Okay, let's not leave out Nixon, beloved. Okay? Florida Native said Ellen was connected to Epstein. Okay, Denise said he was an extremely intelligent president. Absolutely. Okay, so Lawrence said, haven't heard nothing about Obama in the e-files. A pleasant surprise, in my opinion. Well, yeah, of course Obama's not in there, and neither is Putin. Okay? Neither is Putin. Out of all the politicians accused, presidents included, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas even, yeah, Obama nor Putin were mentioned in the files. Other than people hating on them, their names were mentioned, but they weren't accused of anything. Okay? Judah Homecoming said Trump is going to get this video banned. You know he hates Obama. Oh, absolutely. Doesn't he? Doesn't he, though? We the people said all them young black people that got slaughtered in the streets by law enforcement during Obama administration probably don't miss him, and the black folks that lost their homes during the bailout. Well, here's the thing, beloved. People lost their homes because of mortgage fraud. Okay, there was an uptick in mortgage fraud. Trust me, I know all about it because at the time I was working as an intern for a real estate attorney. And that's exactly what was going on. That's why there was a bailout in the first place. But there was absolutely widespread and rampant mortgage fraud in multiple states, neighborhoods. Entire neighborhoods were going into the dark. And as for the black people that lost their lives and got slaughtered during Obama's administration, how was that his fault again? You have to blame racist devils in law enforcement for that. They were so angry that a black man was in charge of this country. That is why they took out their viciousness on black folks. Okay, you can't blame President Obama for that. And out of anything we could blame President Obama for or complain about, I guarantee you, it is nowhere in the magnitude of what we are dealing with now. And I don't think anything ever will be, in my opinion. Okay, at Kiss the Cooking Hill says Obama for VP 2028. He's the only one that can turn this around. Okay, thank you, beloved. I appreciate you, and this is my best friend, by the way. Okay, so thank you, beloved, for your comment your contribution to the channel and your insight to the topic. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessing. Now, with that all being said, I am out of here, you guys. I am not. Shoshana said he hates Obama because he's an intelligent black man and can't mentally compete. Exactly. Exactly. Love Chris said, speak, queen. Thank you, beloved. Okay. Oh, thank you for telling me. Thank you for telling me the music was on. I completely forgot. Okay. I forgot I had that music blasting. Okay. So now with that all being said, I'm about to be out of here. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Okay, I hope you all enjoy the rest of the day. And listen, I won't be back. Nirvana said, take care, ma'am. I was crying too, LOL. I know, right? For the good old days. I mean, we had some complaints then, but it's nothing compared to what we're now seeing and what we're going to continue to see. So listen, everyone, make sure you're following your lifelines. Make sure you're getting your non-perishable food items, your water. Okay, try to make sure you can get a generator, and you can get those solar powered generators. I think for as low as $250. Try to do things to prepare yourself in case there is a power grid attack, because at the end of the day, we know that something's coming and they're going to blame it on Iran, but I believe that it's going to be coming from inside the house. Okay, so I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always, beloveds, remember to keep the Most High first in your lives. Also, don't forget that now is the time to be manifesting. Okay, now is the time to be manifesting. Yesterday was the first day of spring. Okay, with that being said, it's a very, very powerful time to be manifesting. You have the next few days with this energy in the air. So everybody needs to be praying for the best, okay, and getting yourselves together and getting spiritually intact, okay? Make sure you're meditating, eating healthy, drinking lots of water, okay, and doing the best that you can do. You don't have time for nefariousness or foolishness. At this point, we have to raise our vibrations, okay? So with that all being said, listen, I'm not coming back tonight, beloveds. I will be back tomorrow because tonight, the Queen's going to a party. Okay, so I will catch you all tomorrow afternoon, and I'm going to be doing this PowerPoint for you all. Okay, this PowerPoint breakdown of why this is something that America has seen before and how it's going to possibly get. Okay, so until then, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive. Didn't I already say that? Okay, I'm out of here. Anyway, I love you all to life, and I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. That's See right. A bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got